All right, we have some upgrades. We have mic on a stick, and that's it. Milk is being very needy right now. I'm sorry. I wonder if you can. I hope you could hear that. He's he's in Mama's lap. Anyway, let's just cut straight to the chase. I read a book, and it was bad. I could tell it was a Wattpad story from the first chapter. There's just something very distinct about Wattpad books. There's like an essence they can't escape from. Even if they do go on to become published works, the word carries its own negative connotation. Wattpad. And that just might be my unsavory history with it. But it can leave a bad taste in one's mouth. And that's not to say that all Wattpad books are badly written. There are obviously tons of talented Wattpad writers out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if a huge majority of our current generation's writers have roots in Wattpad, me included. Not that I'm like a bona fide writer or anything, but I like to do it, and I have my own history with Wattpad that we're not going to get to today. I'm just speaking from experience when I say that a lot of rudimentary writers find a shared community on Wattpad to explore their craft, develop new projects. That being said, this book should not have left Wattpad. I knew what I was getting into. I find reading bad books and then ranting about them to be a little cathartic. It's entertaining. Wattpad books can be clunky, lack nuance, be very trope heavy, and can glorify toxic behavior, mainly from the main male love interest, it seems. And a lot of the time, these books fall into the YA category, with the target demographic being mostly teenagers. I just don't always think it's the most beneficial for them to be fed this kind of slop. And all of that can go forward to describe the book that I found. But yeah, with any disclaimers out of the way, I'm gonna shit on this book now. The book we're discussing today is The Boy Who Sneaks in My Bedroom Window. This book is not necessarily criminal. It hasn't committed any egregious crimes besides being boring and badly written, which is sometimes honestly the bigger nightmare. Our story opens with Amber, her older brother Jake, and their mother getting prepared for dinner. We learn that their father is on their way home, and their mother is very nervous, trying to make everything perfect for dinner, as to not upset him. The father in the story is very much like a one-note villain archetype. This book doesn't know how to write three-dimensional characters, really. None of them have any depth, and the father especially has like zero subtlety. He's just an abusive father caricature. He is there as a plot point and nothing more. I just really, I'm not a fan of when books do this because obviously like abusive family dynamics can be very complex and compelling if done correctly. But one thing we'll learn about this book is that it's just lazy. I have like a lot of excerpts that I pulled to read from, so if you see me looking down, I'm just reading. But yeah, he comes home, they sit down for dinner, and within these first few pages, we get to see that the father is just scary, like I said, extremely one note, abusive, bad guy. Amber also slides in the mention literally on like page 2 that her father is molesting her. It's very heavy handed. It's giving sloppy, lazy, uninspired, borderline offensive exposition dump Lifetime movie.
Boring, yawning, sloppy.
like sometimes he would be in a really good mood and would hug and kiss me, telling me what a special little girl I was and how much he loved me. That was usually on a Sunday. My mom and Jake would go to hockey practice, and I would be left home alone with my father. Those Sundays were the worst. But I didn't ever tell anyone about those times, or how he touched me and told me how pretty I was. So, like, right off the bat, this subject, it deserves a degree of nuance that this book just fails to deliver on all fronts. Amber, the klutz she is, the quirky little klutz, she doesn't decide, she accidentally spills her drink at the dinner table, and the dad goes literally 0 to 100 immediately. Like, it's so, It's really bad. Shit, Amber, you stupid little bitch, he growled, grabbing the top of my arm and pulling me roughly from the table. Like, this this literally came out of nowhere. They were just like talking before, and all she did was spill her drink. It's very ridiculous. It's very jarring and heavy-handed, and like it's so heavy-handed that I laughed, which I don't think is the emotion that the author was trying to provoke. This is the first of many uses of the word growled that we will see later on. We'll get to that. Their father hurts Amber, and Jake like jumps in to try to get in between them and protect her. An ongoing pattern is Amber needing protection because she is a defenseless, useless little dum dum. They get sent to their rooms, and their mother attempts to calm their father down. Later in the night, Amber's crying, obviously, because they're not having a great time. Jake's best friend Liam is also their next door neighbor, and he decides to sneak his way into the window when he sees her crying. And like a little freak, he just like starts comforting her against her will, like holding her. And she's like, I thrashed trying to push him away, but he tightened his hold on me. The first chapter like doesn't explicitly say that this is all a flashback, so I was very confused because I mean I was picturing like older teenagers with this scene, but it turns out they're like 8 years old currently, and I guess it's like a little more excusable for a child to not know boundaries, but it's just like he never learns and only gets worse with age. But yeah, he ends up comforting her until they fall asleep. We get the first mention of Liam's blue eyes, which is very Wattpad, glistening blue orbs. Yeah, that kind of thing. He calls her Angel, which is the only name that he refers to her in this entire book. It's annoying and I hate it. I never got used to it, and I wanted to throw up every time he said it. I feel like it's odd for him to like be calling her that before they even start dating, but whatever. Like at 8 years old, he was calling her. Whatever. We get taken to 8 years later, where Amber is now 16 and Liam is 18. They're in high school and they're waking up in bed together because apparently for the last 8 years, this has just become a regular routine for them. I woke up to the familiar sensation of being crushed. I wriggled, pushing my shoulder backwards. Liam shifted his weight off me slightly. He was spooning me from behind, breathing deeply into the back of my hair. His heavy arm was draped over me, pinning my arms to my chest as he held my hand tightly. Where his leg was casually slung over mine, I could feel the usual morning glory pushing against the small of my back. Now, I really hate that. Really, really hate that. It's also very bizarre to me that a child SA victim would just be so nonchalant about a boner being pressed into their back every morning. But hey, that's just me. All right, so next we get a 3-for-1 deal with the mentions of Liam's blue eyes, a character growling, and the word wickedly being used. Geez, Angel, why didn't you wake me up? Liam accused, yawning and stretching his arms above his head. I raised one eyebrow incredulously. I did, you jerk. You said 10 more minutes, then pinned me to the bed to stop me from elbowing you, I growled sarcastically. How does one growl sarcastically? Please, if you know, inform me in the comments. Doing a terrible impression of his voice, he chuckled wickedly and dived for me, pushing me back down onto the bed and pinning my hands above my head as he rolled on top of me. Pinned you to the bed? Were you dreaming about me again? I could make that dream come true for you, he mocked. His face was inches of mine, and his blue eyes glittered with mischief. Can you see how I just knew that this was a Wattpad book, like, immediately? Okay, so, like, the author uses the strangest adjectives so clunkily in places that just don't fit. Like, these people do not act human. Wickedly was used incorrectly, might I say, in this book 27 times. Does the author even know the definition of wickedly? All I can think is it seems like she's using it interchangeably, like with maybe she meant like mischievously, but I don't like these words aren't completely interchangeable and they have different connotations. I feel like in high school you learn about like how words have different like negative connotations and how like even though mischievously and wickedly might be synonyms, they don't necessarily give the same meaning. Yet she goes on to use it 27 times. Most of the time, it's used as like playfully or mischievously. There's only one time in the book that wickedly I could see being used like in a correct way, but all other 26 times, not correct. Liam's eyes are mentioned 17 times, and they growl at us 44 times in this book, just to give you some statistics. Part of their routine is Liam sneaking back through the window and going to his parents' house so that they don't realize he was ever gone. Liam is literally never in his own home. He literally, like, throughout the book, lives in Jake's and Amber's house to the point where they're so fucking unhealthily codependent on each other because they've slept in the same bed for 8 of their developing years straight, and now they can't sleep apart. And Liam's bed is said like to be hard and uncomfortable just from like lack of use. Like, go to your own family. These teenagers need to like be their own people. They're I'm getting ahead of myself. So yeah, he sneaks out only to come back to have breakfast and to drive them to school. We get another mention of his blue eyes, and this was only paragraphs apart from the last mention, so that's lovely. "You're looking hot today, Angel," Liam stated, looking me up and down slowly, with his trademark smirk plastered on his face. I scoffed and placed my bowl into the sink. I knew he was teasing me again to get a reaction. I did not look hot today. My brown hair was still damp because I didn't have time to dry it because of his stupid 10 more minutes. So I'd elected to pull it back into a messy bun. I had added the bare minimum makeup as usual, just a little mascara to make my gray green eyes stand out, and some clear lip gloss. My jeans and hoodie combo did not make me look hot, even in the slightest. It's like I was transported back into time. If like everything I've already read wasn't like telling me that this was a Wattpad book, this was like the nail in the coffin. We have the messy bun, the over explanation on what she's wearing, the weird description of. What do you have to say? You're interrupting me. It's very rude. Her gray green eyes. It's it's art, honestly. It's like I'm reading a adopted by One Direction fanfic, but instead it's two teenagers and they just are horny for each other for 200 pages. We find out that Amber is a pick me and not a girl's girl when she sees Jessica, a girl who Liam slept with a few times and is still obsessed with him. They're getting out of the car going to school. All the girls crowd the car because they think Liam and Jake are so hot. And Amber's just trying to get through. One girl elbowed me on purpose. I looked at her in her tiny skirt that looked more like a belt and her top that showed her stomach and grimaced. Geez, she is such a hoe. Her words, not mine. Jessica, did you know you left your skirt at home? I asked with mock horror. She scowled at me and I heard Liam and Jake laugh. Whatevs. You know that the emo look doesn't work for you, right? She retorted spitefully. This is very, 2012. This book was apparently, like, a 2012 nominated bestseller, and it really shows. Speaking of, like, Wattpad tropes, this book, in a lot of ways, is clearly wish fulfillment. Like, something about Wattpad at the time was just, like, a bunch of teenagers writing stories about their favorite fan fictions or characters or celebrities as a form of escapism. So I like to play devil's advocate. I like to be a little nuanced. As fun as it is to just like shit all over this book because it's a really, really bad book, I will say that it's of its time, you know? She's obviously like Amber's very obviously also Mary Sue. Let's just pull up the definition of Mary Sue to really drive it home. A Mary Sue is a derogatory term in fandoms referring to an original character, often female, who is perceived as too perfect or unrealistic, lacking flaws or weaknesses, and often presented as gifted and desirable. Amber is popular, beautiful, every guy wants her, and girls are jealous of her. She's good at everything she tries. She has, we find out, like, no flaws. She's a Mary Sue. Anyway, her best friend Kate is obsessed with both her brother and Liam. And every teenager in this book is just horrifically horny. Kate grinned wickedly. They're the best two players on the hockey team and look like sex gods. I wish I could get past it, she said, suggestively, waggling her eyebrows with a grin. I chuckled at her crudity and she looped her arm through mine, tugging me to my first class of the day. School was good, as usual. I was quite popular due to the fact that my brother and his best friend were the most wanted boys here. They looked after me of sorts, which essentially meant that they warned all the guys to stay away from me, which actually suited me perfectly because I didn't want to date. You see, like, another trend of this book is that every guy in this book, besides her brother and Liam, are only put in the story to, like, SA Amber so that Liam can come and save her. It happens like 3 times. Also, most of the girls wanted to be my friends just so they could get closer to my brother. The girlfriend wannabes were pretty easy to see through. Mostly, you could tell if they wanted an introduction by what kind of clothes they were wearing. If they weren't wearing much, then they were after my brother or Liam. What if they just wanted to slay? I loved my classes. I was quite popular amongst the teachers too because my grades never went below a B. I always did my homework, was never tardy. I prided myself on it, although I wasn't a nerd. She's the perfect amount of everything. Isn't that great? So everyone likes you or is jealous of you. You get good grades, you have no character flaws.
I get good grades. I go to church. I'm a cheerleader.
Great character writing. Unless the author thinks that adding trauma to a character when it's convenient is characterization. Now that school is established, Amber goes home, dreading the party that her brother and Liam throw every Friday because their mother is never home. And since she's never home, their house is like the default party location, even though Amber doesn't want it there. And even though Amber doesn't want it there, she is always the one stuck cleaning the morning after. On top of that, she's the only one to do the cooking for the boys, I guess because she's a girl. When I got to my house, I went straight to work, making a lasagna for dinner. Liam hovered around the kitchen behind me, making me feel violated as he stared at my body. For goodness sake, my eyes are up here, I snapped angrily, pointing to my face. He chuckled wickedly, leaning against the kitchen counter. Whoa, you really are in a bad mood with me today, huh? He teased. Like, am I supposed to think his ogling is endearing and or hot? Like they're not even dating right now. He's just a fucking perverted creep. Next chapter, we get treated to this again. I woke up at 6 o'clock as usual to my alarm going off. I silenced it and tried, unsuccessfully, to move away from Liam. I had my head on his chest and my leg draped over his crotch, which, as usual, was already full of the morning glory that happened to all boys. What the fuck am I reading? I'm gonna throw up. They get to school, and Liam, who knows about Amber's history and that her father essayed her before, decides to feel her up without her consent for some reason. His friends all laughed as I glared at him and slapped his chest. His teasing smile grew larger. Oh, I like it a bit rough, Angel, you know that. I gasped and wriggled, opening my mouth to cuss him out and threaten to tell my brother, but before I could say the words, his hands slipped down my back and came to rest on my butt. Mmm, nice, he purred in my ears. My breath caught in my throat as memories of my father were surfaced, of his breath on my neck and his hands on my body as he told me how special I was. I whimpered, and before I could even think about what I was doing, I jerked my knee up forcefully. Like, that's like actually horrific. And Liam is supposed to be the love interest. If I read that out of context without, like, knowing it was Liam, I would just think it was any of the other boys in this book that also assault Amber. It feels like any mentions of Amber's trauma too are just mainly put in there so that Liam can then comfort her and make her feel better magically. He's the only one who's able to calm her down ever since they were kids. She has like literally no self-soothing skills, can't cope on her own, and is utterly dependent on him. Even though he's the cause of the flashback this time. I was only joking around, you know. I'd never hurt you. His voice cracked as he spoke. He looked straight into my eyes. I could see the honesty in his deep, blue, watery eyes. I'm sorry. My breathing was getting shallower and shallower as I stood there, bombarded by that helpless and hopeless feeling that had always consumed me on those Sundays. Liam shook his head and hobbled closer to me, pulling me into a hug. Do you really think that she wants to be touched right? And pressing his lips to the base of my neck. He breathed deeply through his nose, sending his breath blowing down my neck under the collar of my shirt. I whimpered and closed my eyes. This was what Liam always did to calm me down when I was sobbing on his shoulder. This was the only thing that seemed to work. Great. So another ongoing issue I have with this book is how the author infantilizes Amber, which is strange because she is a minor, but 16-year-olds can still have bodily autonomy. They're not brain dead. The author makes it out like Amber can't handle anything, and everyone dances around issues and deliberately hides things that Amber deserves to know, all because of her past, and they think like it'll break her. I guess the bigger issue is the duality of writing Amber to be defenseless and useless, and also like multiple times exhibiting childlike behavior while also sexualizing her and then putting her in sexually explicit situations. It's gross. I don't like it. No. I don't like reading books about teenagers having sex. But I also know that I'm putting 10 times more thought into analyzing these characters than the author ever did writing them. Amber has this idea in her head that Liam is a man whore, her words, not mine, and that he would never truly love her or be faithful to her. It turns out that he only sleeps around a bunch to try to distract himself from Amber because Jake doesn't approve of like his interest in her or his love for her. So there's like the weird overprotective brother trope. Like why why do some creators think it's normal for an older brother to dictate what their like sister wears or who she dates? Like that's an ongoing trope with books like these. Normal siblings don't act like that. But what's frustrating in the beginning of the book is how long it takes for Amber to catch on to the fact that Liam like is in love with her. Clearly he's interested in her. Like if he is coming in and cuddling her every single night. I don't. And look, I'm a lesbian. Lesbians are notorious for not being able to like identify flirting, but it was so fucking obvious. Tangent aside, I'm trying to summarize the book more quickly here because literally nothing happens. This book barely has any plot. Um, Liam takes Amber ice skating because he plays hockey. She keeps falling, so her butt gets wet from the ice. He put his shirt around my waist and tied it into a knot at the front. What are you doing? You'll get cold, I scolded as my fingers got to work on the knot, trying to untie it again. He shook his head, pulling my hands away from it. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Next time, I'll bring a spare sweater for your mighty fine ass, he replied cockily. The word ass is used 62 times in this book. They're not dating right now. Liam was always usually with Jake or a load of boys or had some skank draped over him, or we were asleep. But he was actually an extremely nice and funny guy. I couldn't help but wonder why he hid his incredible personality behind the man whore male chauvinistic pig attitude. He should be like this more often. Damn, okay. Then Liam guilt trips Amber for not trusting him earlier when he touched her without her consent, and he makes it all about him. Can I ask you something, Angel? He asked, looking at me seriously. I nodded and finished the rest of my milkshake, making a loud slurp. He twisted in his seat, cocking his head to the side. Don't you trust me? How could you have thought I would have hurt you earlier today at school? I've had plenty of opportunities to touch you or force you into something over the last 8 years, haven't I? Why would you think I would hurt you? His tone was really sad, and I realized then how much I'd hurt him earlier. He'd clearly taken it to heart. Are you kidding me? Boo hoo. Shut the fuck up. I can't believe he made her feel for him after he's the one that literally assaulted her. And what are you holding over her head like I could have assaulted you any time over the last 8 years. And I didn't. Where's my thank you? After they're home, Amber gets ready for the aforementioned party. And here's just a quick example on her being written like a much smaller child. Liam, will you just go away? Seriously, I'm not dressed. I frowned and stomped my foot, then immediately blushed and thanked my lucky stars that he was outside the door so he hadn't seen that. Yeah, let's not write a 16-year-old character like this and then also call her ass sexy 60 plus times. I looked at myself in the mirror and I had to admit, I was actually pretty happy with my look for once. I had a nice figure, not too skinny, but curvy in all the right places. I took after my mother, so I had long legs and curvy hips, so the shorts accentuated that. I smiled. I wasn't the most attractive girl around. Like everyone else, I had my insecurities and things that I would change about myself, but for once, I didn't feel the need to hide in jeans. I knew that Jake wouldn't like my outfit though. He probably showed too much skin for his liking. See, this is said literally right after they wrote her like throwing like stomping around like a toddler and throwing a little fit. And I hate it. It's so weird. Why the fuck does her brother get a say in what she wears or who she dates? Weirdo. Weirdo behavior. I'm sorry if I keep holding the mic either too close or far away. I've never like had a proper mic before, and it's just like on a little stick, so it's probably not very like consistent. Anyway, two more instances of the adjective wickedly being used in weird places once again on one page for you. I chuckled wickedly because he was clearly asking for help so he wouldn't have to talk to her. Nope. Actually, I do want to do one. A body shot. Lie down for me then, Angel. He grinned wickedly, but his eyes were playful, so I knew he was only fooling around. Nope. And then they dance and grind on each other. I could feel him getting aroused, but this didn't bother me. Liam had been pressing his erections on me since I was 12 and he was 14. He woke up with one every day and most of the time fell asleep with one too. I seriously, I don't know how to get through this sludge. Reading it back now is like actively damaging me. It turns out that Liam justifies these constant erections by playing it off like it's just like a puberty thing, but then later clarifies that it was actually because he was so turned on by her all the time. Lovely. There was like another trope in Wattpad where like they would, put actual song titles in, so I guess you could like really get engrossed, or like playlists about like that fit the vibe of the story that they're trying to tell. But that was kept in for this actual published work now, and so for some reason we find out that Liam's song is "She's Like a Star." I just think it's really funny, and it dates the book. So as they're grinding on each other, Jake obviously sees it, and so Jake came out of nowhere. Dude, what the fuck? That's my little sister, he shouted at Liam, grabbing his shoulder and jerking him away from me roughly. Liam shook his head in frustration, shoving Jake's hand off his shoulder. Jake, seriously, I'm just dancing with her. That's her song, Liam retorted. Liam, you need to stay away from my sister. She's only 16 for fuck's sake. You know what she's been through. She doesn't need guys like you chasing her around, Jake shouted back, stepping forwards and getting in Liam's face. I would never hurt her, Liam growled, their chests almost touching. I don't give a shit what you say. You stay away, Jake growled menacingly. Amber is just like too drunk to care about their fighting, so she just goes off to be on her own. So, of course, an older guy comes up, and of course, without asking, he kisses the very obviously drunk Amber. Liam swoops in to save her. Aww. And he and Amber then head to her room. He helps her undress. Gross. And then for the first time, Liam and Amber make out. And from here on, we get to the part of the book that I actually wanted to be run over because it's just these two being horny all the time. Nothing but grossly written teen smut for hundreds of pages. What fun we have in store. It's so bad. He laughed and gripped hold of my pouty. He laughed and gripped hold of my pouty bottom lip between his thumb and forefinger. Don't pout, Angel. If the wind changes, you'll get stuck like that, he joked, running his thumb along my lip. The movement made my mouth water for some reason. Just a taste of what we have in store. One weekend, Kate, Amber's BFF, wants to sleep over, but that means that Liam would have to sleep in his own fucking bed for once. Oh no. But they literally don't even manage to last this one night apart. That's how bad it is. And during the sleepover, Amber is like so hyper fixated on Liam and wanting to like make out with him and be with him that she's like neglecting her friendship with Kate. Not that Kate actually cares like in the book, because why would there be anything like plot and consequences? A big chunk of this book where like before Liam and Amber's relationship is public, so they're like sneaking around a lot, is just like that one like make out office flash game where like you make them kiss as much as you can before your boss walks by. I don't know what made me think of that, but that's what I'm getting. He kissed me again, sucking on my bottom lip lightly, asking for entrance. I eagerly opened my mouth for him. He slipped his tongue in, exploring every part of my mouth and making my stomach get butterflies. I had to like actively fight the impulse to vomit when I just read that. If I had to read it, then so do you. Like, it's so bad. They're so horny for each other that even their fingers brushing against each other makes her moan. I'm very uncomfortable with these teenagers, with how these teenagers are written. As he handed me back my keys, his finger brushed mine on purpose, making me moan a little in the back of my throat. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? If this part of the summary feels like it's just like untethered and has like no structure, it's because it doesn't. Like this book just floats around every day doing nothing and then like just having like finding situations where Liam and Amber can kiss and stuff. They go bowling. And there's a 19-year-old guy, Mark, who goes bowling with them. And like any of the other men in this book, you guessed it, he essays her. But for some reason, they kind of play it off like it's just like a funny joke this time because he insists that he's going to kiss her and that she'll like it. So they like put a bet on it, I guess. But then he actually does it. Mark laughed and, before I could protest, crushed his lips into mine roughly, gripping the sides of my face so I couldn't move away. I tried to push him off, but he didn't budge. He nibbled my lip, asking for entrance. So I clamped my mouth shut and brought my knee up as hard as I could into his groin. I gulped loudly, breathing a sigh of relief. Told ya, that's $20 you owe me, I said sweetly as I stepped past him and made my way back to the lounge with a triumphant smile plastered on my face. Liam was sitting back down on the couch, so I quickly took the seat next to him before anyone else did. You okay? He asked, smiling. I grinned, nodding. Yep. What's so funny? Mark, I answered, grinning. Just then, Mark walked into the lounge, limping slightly, his hand over his groin, looking like he was in a bit of pain. He threw a $20 bill into my lap and sat down over the other side of the room. Liam burst out laughing. That's my girl, he whispered, making me smile. Like, why is it funny this time? Why is it just played off as a little joke? Hmm? That's so funny. Being kissed against your will. Now that Liam and Amber are official, just not publicly, Liam starts telling the girls that are obsessed with him that he is taken, but won't say with whom. So Jessica starts a bet pool for whoever can get Liam to have sex with him and be unfaithful to his new girlfriend. For some reason, Amber joins in on this bet, knowing that she can win the pool since she is the girlfriend. This plot point is useless. It's like mentioned several times throughout, but I didn't bother mentioning it just because it's stupid. But basically, Amber, like occasionally through the book at school, like teases Liam because she's trying to play it off like she's trying to win the bet to her classmates, and the bet pool actually gets up to like the thousands. And yeah, she does eventually win it and then they have that money. Who cares? Then Liam invites Amber over to tell his parents that they're dating. His parents are overjoyed because they love Amber. Everyone loves Amber. And his mom gets to telling why he calls her Angel. He's never told you why he calls you that? She asked, smirking at me. I shook my head and she chuckled darkly. Why darkly? Anyway, the first time we met you was at Liam's 6th birthday party. You'd not long moved in, and we thought it would be nice, to invite the neighbors to a party, she started, nodding enthusiastically. You and your brother came to the party, and as soon as you walked through the door, Liam just stared at you. He literally couldn't take his eyes off you. You smiled and wished him happy birthday, but he couldn't even speak to you, so you walked off to go dance. He turned to me, and do you know what he said to me? She sighed wistfully as her eyes glazed over with tears. I shook my head. What the heck is she gonna say? This is freaking me out a little, he said in a deadly serious tone. Mama, am I dead? I said, No, honey, you're not dead. And he shook his head, looking all confused about something. Then he pointed to you dancing and said, If I'm not dead, then why is there an angel in our house? She stated, clasping her hands together and beaming. I gasped, Holy crap! That's why he calls me Angel? I'm going to bash my skull into a brick wall. Angel is said 167 times in this book. There are 274 pages. Over half of the fucking pages, he calls her this stupid fucking pet name. And this is the justification they give. Also, no 6-year-old speaks like that. It's giving like those tweets that moms obviously made up story about their kids. It's just really bad, and I'm really tired. When I turned to smile at him, he kissed me, nibbling my. If they fucking nibble. Why do they keep nibbling? Why do they keep nibbling? It's actually driving me insane. And they keep asking the asking for entrance. We're calm. We're getting through this. He kissed me, nibbling my lip, asking for entrance. I whimpered and shook my head, pulling away. Geez, has he forgotten that his mom is sitting there watching us? Ew. But also, that phrase is actually atrocious and it's used 6 times, like 6 separate times. I just don't think that should be allowed. 6 times too many. I have to keep breezing past so many scenes of them just making out because it's just the same gross depictions of teenagers being horny repeatedly. But after they have another makeout sesh in Liam's room, they come out and Liam's mom goes, Pat smirked at me over the back of the sofa. Bye, Amber. Did you guys have fun? She asked, winking at me knowingly. I squirmed my feet and nodded. Ew? Amber goes home and Jake is there. She says the dinner with Liam's parents went well. Well, you missed a good dinner too. She made a homemade pie and everything, I teased, smiling wickedly as he groaned. Like, does she mean playfully? She, like, that's just not the correct adjective. It's not. Jake says he's spoken to their mother, who has been in contact with their father, and he wants to see them. The news immediately sends Amber into like a panic attack, and Jake doesn't know what to do. He's useless. So of course, Liam, the only one who knows how to comfort her, swoops in to save the day. And this scene is what finally leads Jake to the conclusion that they're together. Like, no fucking shit, Sherlock. They were literally grinding at the dance. Whatever. Jake is pissed and he shows off his toxic boy rage until he realizes that Liam actually is a great protector for Amber and would never hurt her or doesn't intend on hurting her. So that conflict that the author built up to be a big thing got solved instantly. Great. I love a good plot. It was weird, but when Jake had pulled me away from Liam tonight, I'd felt strange, like I'd left my heart behind. I didn't realize until then how strongly I was connected to him. He was literally everything to me. When his arms had wrapped around me earlier, it felt like I was home, and all my panic started to recede. I know to young teens this might sound romantic, but in all reality, this is so unhealthy. Amber needs to learn how to be her own person and go to an actual therapist. And the book feels like such a slow fucking drag because it literally goes through the plot day by day for the first like couple hundred pages. There's no time skips or anything significant. It's like I'm reading a teenage girl's like diary entries and it's really boring. I know I'm not the target audience, but it's really, really boring. The next day, Amber decides to go on birth control and she brings her friend Kate as support, which is very normal. Good for Amber to have a girlfriend outside of Liam to go support her with something like this. But no, because Liam, for some reason, takes offense to this. You went to do this on your own? He asked, frowning at me angrily. I shook my head, a little confused by his reaction. I didn't go on my own. Kate came with me, I corrected, wrapping my arms around his neck again. Why didn't you tell me? I would have come with you, he said, pulling me closer to him, the annoyed expression still on his face. Liam, I just thought, it's not really a place where you take your boyfriend. I wanted to go on the pill. Kate offered to come with me. I shrugged, not understanding why he was so annoyed about it. He sighed deeply. Angel, I love you. I would have come with you. I wish you'd told me, he said, looking at me sadly. What difference does it make? I didn't think you'd want to go, I muttered, confused. Why the heck is he all hurt and annoyed? I just went on the pill so I can have sex with him. Shouldn't he be happy about that fact? You didn't think I'd want to go? Angel, this is about me too. I want us to do things together. We're a couple, a team. I feel a little hurt that you think I wouldn't want to go, he explained, leaning forward, planting a soft kiss on my forehead. Like, she's allowed to do things without you? She has nothing to be sorry for here. And then Amber actually feels really guilty about this because he majorly guilt tripped her for no reason. Like, he makes her feel bad and she's portrayed as the one in the wrong. Like, the author doesn't even say that she's right and he's wrong. Like, it's explicitly like she apologizes and that's it. Like, yeah, she should have like communicated to Liam about that. And then later, Amber takes a bath and Liam peeks in like the fucking perv he is and says, "Now that's sexy." And the bath got cold, so we get treated to this lovely depiction. Liam took my hands, putting each of my prune-like fingertips into his mouth, warming them one at a time. I bit my lip, excited by that little move. Oh my god, that's sexy. It just keeps dawning on me that this is an actual published book that must have had an editor. And yet this is what we get. All right, we are a bit over halfway through the book, and it has if you haven't noticed, been a singular point of view this entire time, when all of a sudden, 158 pages into the book, we get thrown into a Liam POV. Okay. Okay. Opens with, I had been with Amber for a week now, and it had honestly been the best week of my life. And that's when I freaked the fuck out because what do you mean it's only been a week? A week? It feels like I've been stuck in this teenage smut hellscape for years. And it's because how do you drag 1 week of a story over 100 pages? Like, there's ways to do it. This is not it. I don't need the pacing in this book is just. I still couldn't believe that someone like me would be lucky enough to have someone like her fall in love with them. She could have any guy she wanted. She was beautiful, smart, funny, and kind. Practically every guy in the school lusted after her. Not that I can blame them. Her body was just out of this world because of all her dancing. I struggled to watch her at dance practice every Saturday. It was such a freaking turn on seeing her jumping around, shaking her behind. She honestly made my mouth water because I wanted her so badly. It'd be even worse tomorrow because I'd actually had my hands on that pert little ass that would be shaking around. So we can check off objectifying and sexualizing a minor and the usage of ass several times in there if we're still keeping track of that. Oh dear god, why? It just keeps getting worse. I don't know what to do. I would ask her to marry me right now, but I just didn't want to rush her or pressure her into anything. We had all the time in the world. Like, she's 16. What do you. This will actually come back into play later, but in a different way. So just keep that in mind. This point of view is literally pointless because it's providing nothing new besides, I guess, the inner horny thoughts of a 18-year-old teenager. It's just rehashing the same busted ass plot that we've been stuck with, but from the perspective of an obsessed, perverted predator. And he like also talks about other women in such a derogatory manner, calling them skanks, which is just lovely. Like just because he's sweet or like doesn't talk to Amber like that doesn't make you not a misogynist. Like anyway, we're at another Friday party in which we get the imagery of these two grinding on each other, which I will give you because if I suffered, then so do you. I grinned as I wrapped my arm around her waist, making her jump. Hey, girlfriend, I whispered in her ear. She smiled at me over her shoulder as she ground her ass across my crotch, making me yearn for her again. Why does she write like this? It's so vulgar and jarring. And his inner like Liam's inner thoughts especially are so sudden and aggressively smutty all of the time. Liam lets it slip to one of his friends that they're dating because the friend wanted to make moves on Amber and Liam just couldn't have that. And he knows that his friend is a big mouth, so he's like worried that for like a millisecond that Amber will be mad because like if the news spreads that they're dating, then the bet's kind of ruined or whatever, and then they can't get the money. And like I said, the bet thing doesn't really matter because there's actually like no conflict here. Like they introduce the possible idea of it, but then he goes to talk to Amber right away, and she says that, and all she says is like, well, if people are gonna find out, we might as well give them a show. And then they just like start making out on the dance floor. Don't you love it when books have no build up for conflict and like no payoff? It makes me feel actually brain dead. Like everything just keeps happening to happen. There's nothing of substance. There's no point to any of it. I'm losing my mind. When they first went into the relationship, Amber didn't have a lot of trust for Liam because he is such a player. And she also knew already that she wasn't ready for sex, especially be like with her past. So she assumed automatically that Liam wouldn't be capable of waiting. She feels like, it could be like, who knows? It could be months, it could be years before she's ready. At the very least, Liam never coerces her into having sex or doing anything she's uncomfortable with. But here we are, 1 week into the relationship, and Amber doesn't want to wait anymore. Here's where I'm about to crash out because what's so odd is that the author, for whatever fucking reason, decided to have this moment happen in Liam's POV. Like this unfortunately has been one of the main plot points of the book this far, and we don't even get to hear like Amber, the main character's inner thoughts on what's going on or if she's having any inner turmoil about her essay. To me, it feels like the author clearly just wanted an easy way out. It's it's so lazy. It feels like the author just didn't want to have to write about the more complicated things. Like if you're not going to give complicated subjects the tact and effort they deserve, just don't add it to your shit fucking story at all. But yeah, since I'm so eager to hear about this teenage girl losing her virginity, here we get I'm ready now. I want you to make love to me. She blushed slightly, looking even more adorable because of how sweet and innocent she was. It is so gross to describe her as adorable, sweet, and innocent when they're right about to have sex. Like, I don't like hearing their sexual journey in any way. It's horrendous. But like this especially like is once again that duality of infantilizing and over sexualizing a teenager. Like how did we get here? He describes her naked body as perfect, which again, don't like reading about teenagers' bodies in a sexual way, but the author shows us some mercy by doing like a fade to black for the actual like intercourse, only to then hit me over the head with a brick by giving. Afterwards, I smoothed her hair away from her sweaty forehead as I hovered above her, our bodies still tangled. She was grinning up at me and looked so happy it made my heart skip a beat. I love you, Angel. We lay there, trying to slow our heartbeats. I pressed my face into the crook of her neck, kissing her, feeling her rapid pulse under my lips. I felt happier than I ever had in my life. After about a minute or so, I eased out of her and rolled to my side. Like I didn't need to hear that part. I was like at first I was like, whew, we didn't have to hear about like the actual intercourse, and then they just like had to they just like slipped in a little something, a little something. It couldn't just it just gets worse. I'm sorry I hurt you, I said quietly. I felt awful that I was the one to have to cause her pain, but I guess every girl had to go through that the first time. She giggled and her eyes sparkled with excitement. Liam, that was so totally worth it, she teased, pressing her body closer to mine, snuggling into my arms. I laughed. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, I replied, smirking at her. I'd never had any complaints before, but I'd never actually cared if the girls enjoyed herself before. Usually, I just did what I wanted. I'd never actually taken the time to think about it. There's a lot to address. First of all, the first time doesn't have to be painful. It's like not something girls should have to get through. Like you can take things more gradually and ease into things, but at the same time, all bodies are different. Some might experience more pain than others. Like this is all just like basic sex education. So let's not just put this in like throw this into a YA book that like susceptible teenagers are going to be reading and like spread misinformation. Secondly, we don't hear any depth from Amber. No substance, even though this was like a big step for her and like a big part of her story so far, which is just like so lazy. And lastly, why is Liam literally the worst person ever? What do you mean you never cared about if the woman you have sex with enjoy themselves? He's just a self-centered fucking misogynist. And we're supposed to see him as like this romantic good guy, this heartthrob, and he's just a misogynist. He's a toxic like misogynist. Red flag after red flag, guilt tripping her, love bombing her. Like I could just keep going. She was so close, and now that I'd had her once, I couldn't get enough. I moved my hips back so she didn't feel me getting excited again. That was her first time. She was bound to be sore, and so she didn't need to know about my body's slutty reaction to hers. But I'd moved too late, and she'd already noticed. She raised her head and looked down before her shocked eyes flicked up to mine. I smiled apologetically, and she giggled. Seriously? Already? She teased as her fingertips trailed down my chest, making me shiver. I'm sorry. It'll go away in a minute. You're just so damn sexy. You should rest. You'll be sore, I said a little sheepishly. She raised her eyebrows, and a slow smile spread across her face as she rolled me onto my back, straddling me, looking like a freaking sex goddess sitting on top of me. I'll leave that there for you to think what you will. But wait, freaking? The word freaking is used 49 times in this book, and I just think that's really funny. Amazing writing. I'll reiterate again, this should have stayed on Wattpad. Anonymous. the fact that this author has tied her actual name to this book does give me some sympathy for her. Why would you do that to yourself? Okay, I took a break and I ate some lunch and I'm feeling um a little better because this book it weighs on me and it hurts my brain and I just needed to step away for a moment and fill my body with some yummy food. So we go back into Amber's POV and she's off to dance practice. More talk about Amber's butt. Please try not to shake that fine ass in my face too much, or I might have to rip those sexy sweats off you and take you right in front of your crew, he growled, biting my neck gently. All of a sudden, I'm exhausted and I wish I was still eating lunch. Well, Amber's doing great at dance practice because, of course, she is, and takes note that Liam seems to be in a better mood than usual. He seemed to be smiling more than normal. I guess it was hard for him waiting a whole week for sex. I bet he'd never done that in his life. Wow, a whole week? Poor Liam. I actually think it's funny that they made it out to seem like they waited for so long. And it actually had felt like it had taken them so long to get there, but only because they made the 1 week span over 200 fucking pages. Like, how is that possible? And it's not just like the longevity of the week being spanned out over that many pages, it's the fact that like nothing else happened besides like them edging each other and wanting to make out and be horny. Now their mother comes home for the first time in this book. Ever since I don't know if I ever explained that when they were around like 12 or 13, I think, Jake and Liam came home on a Sunday and saw their dad like trying to SA Amber, and they like tore him off of him, they beat him up, and they sent his ass out of the house, told him to never come back, get out of town pretty much. So since then they have not seen or heard from their dad, and now as they are grown up, not grown up, now that they're 16, their mom I guess works a job where she's like out of town pretty much like 80% of the time. Great. So, but like that's to say like I'm not like not to judge or anything, but if my children had like such a traumatic or tumultuous upbringing, I would maybe find a job where I could be home to actually raise and be there for my young children. But hey, that's just me. It's not even a point that's made in this book. Like no one ever talk talks about her being missing as a negative thing. In fact, it's like part of that like feels like that wish fulfillment thing when you're young and you're like, oh, I wish my mom was gone so that we could throw parties every week. I guess. Anyway, they're excited to see their mom again, and Amber excitedly tells her that she got a boyfriend. I smiled and made her walk into the house, pulling her into the kitchen. I got a boyfriend, I confirmed, grinning like a mad person. Oh, Amber, I never thought you would be able to. Why would she why would she say that to her daughter, her teenage daughter? I'm so proud of you, honey. I know how hard it is for you to let people near you. That is no, what? What? Why the fuck would she say that? And Amber's not even offended. If and this makes her the mother even worse because if you know that your daughter like has these issues, then why the fuck first of all are you not there for her? You are at work all the time and you've never like put her into therapy or anything. It's just like, no, well, I just thought you would never be able to get a boyfriend or make any close connections, and I was gonna be okay with it, but I'm glad that it happened. That's insane. But their mother apparently came home with bad news. Their father has moved back into town. Jake, he wants to get to know you two again. He says he's sorry and that he's changed. He wants you to give him another chance. You mean he wants another chance to try and rape Amber? Jake shouted. I flinched as the memories rushed back. Liam's arm tightened around me as his hands clenched into his fists. Thanks, Jake. That is very helpful and sensitive of you. He's like starting to seem like a chip off the old block, isn't he? It's not even the only time that he like shouts that like unnecessarily while Amber's in the room. Just like, okay, thanks, cool. But apparently their father remarried, and he now has a new wife, and they have a baby together. And the woman has a 17-year-old son named Johnny, who apparently is starting school with them tomorrow. The pacing, magnificent. We went from 200 pages of absolutely nothing to everything now happening very quickly in the latter third of this book. But this news causes Jake to lash out and start breaking things, which rightfully frightens Amber. His face was pure rage, and I had the feeling that if my father were here in that moment, he'd be dead. I wrapped my arms around him tightly to calm him down. The only way I knew how to calm Jake when he lost it like this was to make him think I was upset. That usually snapped him out of his rage pretty quickly. Jake, stop, you're scaring me, please, I whispered, clinging to him for dear life. He was shaking with anger as he wrapped his arms around me. It's okay. Shh. Everything's okay. I'm sorry, he murmured, rubbing my back. As his overprotective nature kicked in, slowly his muscles seemed to lose some of the tension, but he didn't let go of me. Yeah, this behavior over and over again is normalized. Rage and physical violence is the go-to reaction for both of our male leads. And I don't understand the dichotomy of the boys' outbursts versus their father, like treated as though they're distinctly different. Like because they're young and hot, and protecting Amber makes it sexy, I guess, instead of a toxic and unhealthy trait. Okay, I'm gonna try to explain a simple scene for you. Amber asks about the baby's name, tries to cope with the fact that she has a new half brother, a stepbrother, and everything else. She gets up to go to her room, and Liam lays down with her a few minutes later. That's it, nothing crazy, right? Except, for whatever fucking reason, we're given a mid chapter point of view change. We go back to hearing her ask about the baby's name from Liam's perspective, even though we just read that a paragraph ago. Except now it's from his perspective. Great. There's literally no consistency. And it's just a fucking free for all now. Let's just switch POVs, well, left and right, whenever we fucking feel like it. Sure, why not? It actually fucking makes me lose it because we don't gain anything from changing perspectives. Because they're in the same room. It's the same scene. And he has nothing of substance to add. Why are we reading what just fucking happened a paragraph ago, but from Liam's perspective? Why? The only difference is that, like, during Liam's point of view, we get to hear the quick convo that Jake and him have before he went to go lay down with Amber. But, like, in Amber's perspective, she even says that she could hear them whispering. So I don't understand the creative choice of changing point of views when we could have just stayed in Amber's POV and had her just, like, overhear what they were saying. And then it wouldn't have been disruptive. It wouldn't have, like, interrupted the scene, made it feel so clunky and made us reread something that we've already read. But for some reason, this is what we went with. And basically, during that conversation, he just warns Jake not to go out there and do anything stupid, or at least not to do anything alone. And then Liam gives us this lovely bit of info. Well, I was going to turn down my scholarship to Boston and go to college closer to here so I could stay with her. But if the worst comes to worst, I'll take her with me to Boston. She can transfer schools, I suggested, shrugging, waiting for his reaction. Oh, we're just gonna make these big decisions on your own without Amber. Does Amber have no free will or say anything at all? Like, let her be a fucking person. Also, she's 16. What do you mean you plan on taking her with you to Boston? She hasn't even finished high school. They're literally fucked. So as it turns out, Johnny is actually fine, and he and Amber get along well after some awkwardness. So, crisis averted there. Because why would we actually have any plot in this book? I will say the only time I didn't actually correctly or accurately predict something that happened was with Johnny, because I heard that there was a boy, like, when I just automatically assumed that he would, like, also try to essay her, as has been the pattern with this whole book. But I am here, and I am glad to say that does not happen. So rest assured, at least we don't have to worry about that. The next morning, after Liam had snuck out of my window, I skipped into the kitchen, seeing Jake already sitting there chatting to my mom. "Good morning," I chirped happily. My mom looked at me a little shocked. "What are you so happy about this morning?" she asked, smiling. I grinned and suppressed a giggle. I couldn't very well tell her that my hottie of a boyfriend had just given me an extremely good reason to be smiling before he jumped out of my window, so instead, I just shrugged. Fucking ew. After having no time skips for 200 pages, the author has some mercy on us and throws in a whole month time skip. There are only 74 pages left, and the author has decided to cram all of the plot into those 74 pages. So strap in and get ready, because things are about to get a little silly. Johnny has become part of their friend gang, and Amber goes to some skating tournament to watch him. Afterward, he wants to go home and shower. Amber obviously doesn't want to because he lives with her dad, but Johnny still doesn't really know why she doesn't want to, but ensures her that everyone is gone for the night. Of course, that's not actually what happens, and he shows up while they are there. Of course, nothing has changed, and he's still the horrible freak that he was before, and he comes on to Amber. This time, she manages to get away and knees him in the groin. She and Johnny book it out of there, and he drives her home. We get another POV switch mid-chapter, because why not? And they explain the situation to Johnny as Amber falls asleep in Liam's arms. After about 10 minutes, I glanced down at Amber to see she was asleep in my arms. She looked incredibly sad and vulnerable. Her face was still red from crying. I waved to Jake to get his attention. "I'm going to put her to bed," I whispered. "Is she a fucking infant?" She can walk herself to bed. They tell Johnny to talk to his mom about their dad. Johnny sighed and frowned down at his shoes. "I don't think you should tell Amber any of this stuff. She doesn't really need anything else to worry about. And I don't even know what my mom is going to say about it all," he muttered. I nodded. That was probably a good idea. If she knew any of this, she would be getting herself all worked up. This is what I mean when they literally treat her like a baby. They coddle her and fret over her as if she's going to break any moment. And, like, she deserves to know what's going on. Like, she has a right to know. But next chapter, Liam and Jake both lie to Amber, continuing giving different reasons as to why they're not going to school. She starts feeling a bit nauseated and dizzy at school. Just put a pin in that, because it's gonna come up later. And by later, I mean like a few pages from now. Like I said, the last few pages are just crammed with a shit ton of plot. I wouldn't even call it plot, it's just like events that happen. Once she gets home, Johnny, his mother, and the baby brother are all there. Jake explains that their dad has been up to the same old shenanigans with Johnny and his mom, so they're taking the fam squad in. I guess since the mom isn't home, that's not an issue, and they don't seem to discuss it with her. And I don't understand why they felt the need to lie to Amber and leave her confused and confused all day, only for her to find out the same day, a couple pages later. There's no build-up, there's no payoff, there's no conflict, there's no nothing. She doesn't get mad at them for not telling her. So what is the point? There is no point. This book sucks. Like, she takes the news fine and immediately, like, accepts them in the house. But then she starts feeling ill again and actually passes out all of a sudden. Womp, womp. When she passes out, she hit her head on the counter, so she's in the hospital now. They say she was unconscious for about 20 minutes, and goddamn, I hope that she has brain damage and that the brain damage causes her to realize that her boyfriend is a fucking tool. The doctor then asks Amber some basic and necessary questions that are just like a part of hospital protocol, and for some reason she takes like personal offense to it. "So you passed out, Amber. Have you been feeling alright today? Have you taken anything you shouldn't have?" he asked, eyeing me suspiciously. Like drugs or something? I asked, shocked. Do I look like a freaking drug addict? Girl, shut the fuck up. Doctors suggest her fainting might have been stress-related, so they run some blood tests. Okay, so what was it? I asked curiously. It couldn't be anything too serious. I was only 16, I ate a balanced diet, I didn't smoke, I had only gotten drunk once in my life, I wasn't overweight, and I exercised regularly. In my opinion, I shouldn't have been able to get ill at all. Yep, because that's how that works. You're pregnant.
No more Fortnite!
The doctor announced. Yup. 16 and pregnant. It turns out these fucking dum-dums didn't use their birth control correctly. Lol. This issue could have been mended with perhaps some motherly presence, some parental guidance, adult figure to teach them how to have safe sex. Just a thought. Amber's gut reaction is horror, as would be mine. My eyes widen in horror. No, I refused, pushing it away quickly. I didn't want to see because then I wouldn't be able to do what needed to be done. I couldn't have a baby. We were too young. It would ruin everything. We'd only just gotten together, and there was too much going on. Liam would be leaving me for college soon. We couldn't have a baby. I refused to ruin Liam's dreams. He'd always wanted to play ice hockey, and I wouldn't take that away from him. I couldn't see the little baby in there because I needed to stay strong. All of this seems very reasonable to me, very reasonable, rational thoughts that they should perhaps discuss further with an adult figure. You don't want to see? The doctor asked, asking a little confused. I shook my head. No, I want an abortion, I said sternly. An abortion? What? Why? Liam cried, shocked. He climbed onto the bed, stretching out at my side. Angel, just hear me out, okay? He pleaded. I nodded and looked at him, unable to see what he could say to make this right. There was nothing he could suggest. There was no other way. I love you more than anything in the world. Before this happened, I was going to reject my scholarship and go to college here instead, he stated. I opened my mouth to tell him he was stupid, but he covered my mouth with his hand, looking at me pleadingly. I wanted to ask you to come move with me to Boston, but I can't ask you to move away from your home and Jake and your friends, so I decided to stay here with you instead, he said, shrugging. Geez, he is so damn adorable and sweet and thoughtful. How did any of this relate to us having a baby? Meaning that he probably wouldn't get to go to college anyway because he'd have to drop out and get a job. I'd have to drop out of school without even graduating. He smiled as he continued to try to convince me. We can make this work. I know my mom would help out. I'll go to college and get a job in the evenings and weekends, earn some money. You'd have to either finish school by correspondence or we could get a babysitter so you could go to school. Or maybe even my mom would do it, he suggested, looking at me hopefully. That's our first baby in there, Angel. That's a baby we made together. Can you just think about it, please? It'll be hard for a little while, but once I get signed by a team, I'll be able to give you anything you want, both of you, he persuaded, rubbing his hand over my stomach lightly. Sorry for the long excerpt, but I had to let you understand how fucking mind-numbing and idiotic this writing is and these characters are. I have no words. Okay, I agreed. He grinned and kissed me again, moving so he was half on top of me. I noticed he put none of his weight on my stomach. He was being super gentle. He kissed down my neck, getting lower and lower. He hitched up my top and kissed all over my stomach before pulling up to smile. Is the doctor still in there? Sorry. I love you, he whispered, both of you. I smiled at his words and pulled him closer to me. I love you too, baby daddy, I teased, making him laugh. Am I reading a horror novel? Like, this is actually terrifying and I'm going to throw up. Obviously, it is ultimately her decision, but it's not an informed one right now. She hasn't spoken to any adults. She just got coerced and guilted by her boyfriend, and then they just decided just like that without any further discussion on the matter. Like, this is literally a life-altering decision. And he's just making the assumption that, like, oh, I will for sure get signed by the team. My mom will definitely help. You could just, like, finish school whenever. I'll get a job. Like, it'll only be difficult for a little while, as though this baby's not going to be, like, a permanent life-altering decision. They're both so naive and stupid, and they obviously need to talk to someone else about this. But they don't. They head home, and Amber tells everyone, "Stop worrying, guys. It was just a lack of food, apparently. Sugar low or something. I'm fine now, honestly," I assured them, nodding, trying not to look too guilty. I just hoped that Jake didn't go too crazy when he found out, and that he didn't beat the crap out of Liam for impregnating his little sister. Jake gets a call from their father, and like a rational person, he decides to tell him to come over. So, I don't know, so he could kill him, I guess. The boys demand that Amber go next door, and she refuses, but since she has no bodily autonomy, Liam just picks her up and carries her there against her will. We're in Liam's POV now, because that's the thing that happens, and he claims that it is his job to keep Jake under control. It seems Jake wants to goad their father into hitting him first so that he can just like go at him, like as self-defense, but none of this works out as they planned. Their dad comes in. "This is all your fucking fault. You and Amber had to go open your filthy mouths and tell Johnny about what happened. You've ruined everything for me. Everything. You're a worthless piece of shit, Jake. I should have pushed your mother down the stairs or something when she told me she was pregnant with you," Stephen shouted angrily. "I knew it was going to happen, but I wasn't quick enough to stop it." Jake grabbed his father and slammed him against the wall, knocking his breath out of him. Then, of course, Amber walks in. Their dad grabs her wrist and he starts yelling at her. And this, obviously, sends Liam into a boy rage. I lunged forward, and at the same time, he slapped her hard across the face. I grabbed his shirt and punched him full in the face, enjoying the satisfying crack his nose made as my fist connected with it. I pulled my arm back and punched him again and again, ignoring the pain each blow caused to my hand. After the fourth or fifth punch, his body was going a little limp as he swayed on weak legs. I shoved him against the wall so I didn't have to hold him up, and punched him over and over. I put all of my hate into it, all the anger and hurt and helplessness that I'd ever felt when I would watch my girl cry herself to sleep. I would never let this man hurt her again. He slumped to the floor, wrapping his arms around his head, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop, so I started kicking him instead. Suddenly, Jake grabbed me from behind and slammed me face first into the wall. "No, I'm not done. Get the hell off me, Jake. Get off," I shouted, trying desperately to get him off so I could kill the man that made my angel's life a misery. I shoved myself away from the wall, trying to get free. "Amber's hurt, Liam," Jake said, shoving me back against the wall again, his arm across the back of my neck. Liam is a violent and scary person, and that is all I will say on that matter for now. We're switched right into Amber's POV right after this. The storytelling is atrocious. And of course we can't just go straight into the current moment where Amber is hurt. It goes back just like a couple minutes to Amber like hearing her dad's car pull up. It's just so disjointed that it like takes you straight out of the moment, and like any sense of tension or drama that the author was attempting to facilitate is just cut off. Also, we can hear Amber like think, maybe I should go over there, and then she goes over there. We already know that she went over there because in Liam's POV she showed up and then everything happened. So why are we going back a couple minutes just to reread the same scene again, just so we can get to the part where Amber's dad slaps her? It's so unnecessary. It does not add anything at all. Sorry, we're calm now. It's fine. So after having to reread the same scene again from Amber's perspective, we get to the part where Amber's dad slaps her, and the slap causes her to fall over and crash into some furniture. Trigger warning for sudden miscarriage. Pain like I had never felt in my life shot up through my stomach and lower back. It was like someone had stabbed me. I wrapped my arms around my stomach, trying to breathe through the pain. "No," I croaked. "Oh no, the baby. Liam, where's Liam?" I asked. I turned my face into the carpet and sobbed. This was entirely my fault. I should have just stayed at his house like he told me to. If I were there now, then the baby would be safe and Liam wouldn't be facing jail. I don't know, girl. I feel like it's kind of your dad's fault for slapping you in the first place. Or maybe actually it's Jake's fault for inviting him over in the first place. "I'm so sorry," I said honestly. "This was going to ruin everything. He wouldn't want me now that I'd killed our baby." This book did not need to do this. I don't even feel, I don't feel emotional or sad. It just makes me feel gross. Liam bent his head and kissed my forehead. "Angel, you have nothing to be sorry for," he whispered, moving closer to me. His hand rubbed circles on my stomach so softly that I could barely feel it. "This is my fault," I cried, sobbing again. He shook his head fiercely and pushed himself away from me. I felt my heart breaking. I knew it. He was going to leave me now. He got up and moved over to my father, who was trying to get up off the floor, and started punching him again, shouting a string of expletives. Jake tackled him to the floor. Stop it! Go to Amber now, he ordered, looking at him angrily. He can't even like calm his rage down and put aside like his stupid violence for a minute to like make sure his girlfriend's okay and to be there for her. Jake and Liam are no better than their father. She's pregnant, Jake, Liam explained, kissing my cheek. Pregnant, Jake stuttered. Liam nodded, looking at me worriedly. I'm gonna make you pay for this, you little shit, my father shouted from the door. Jake and Liam both moved to get up, but I grabbed Liam's hand. I didn't want to be on my own again. Get the hell out before I kill you myself, and if she loses her baby, I swear to God you're dead, Jake growled venomously. Jake, please, I whispered, not wanting any more trouble. Baby? She's pregnant? That little slut, my father spat distastefully. Lovely. Liam was looking at me, his gorgeous blue eyes tight with worry. Is now really the time? They get in the ambulance and they check her out. I'm sorry, your cervix is open. You're miscarrying. We need to do a procedure to speed things along. You're only 5 weeks, so this is the safest and easiest way, the doctor said, throwing his blood-smeared gloves away. So clearly this is all happening extremely quickly. It's hard for me to fully get across the horrific pacing of this book when I'm skipping around, but in reality, the first 200 pages, like I've been saying, have the two being horny, and they shoved all of the actual, I guess, plot or drama into literally like 70-ish pages. All of a sudden, it's just crazy, and there are POV switches left and right, and it's giving me whiplash. And I don't know why the author decided to have her be pregnant, only to have her miscarry like a chapter later. What was the point? I mean, I don't think there was a lot of thought put into it in general. The author has no idea how to build up suspense or make things interesting or dramatic or actually emotionally provoking in any way. There's no payoff to the story arcs. Everything just happens in this book. Everything that happens in this book is just that. Something that happens. These characters have things happen to them. You can say that at least. And it doesn't evoke any emotion because you're never even given like a chance to really root yourself in any of the storylines. It kind of just it seems like the author had fun writing hundreds of pages of teenage smut on Wattpad and then forgot that books and characters should really have a plot and story arcs. So then she just word vomited the rest of it and called it a day. Anyway, sorry for the tangent. Liam is getting arrested. Woohoo. Liam put his hand on my shoulder. Don't get up, he said sternly. I frowned. Geez, the silly boy is being arrested, yet he's worried about me? Oh yeah, he's so silly for almost beating a man to death. What a silly boy he is. Amber starts planning on her own and showing a little agency and proving to us that hey, maybe she isn't just a defenseless, weak girl, which the whole time like they've been treating her like that, but hey, whatever. She has a plan to fix everything, and she goes off to her father's house alone with the goal for him to drop the charges against Liam. She baits him into admitting all the shit he's done and records it on her phone. This actually works, and she sends it right away to Jake before like he can like, break and destroy the evidence. And then Jake pulls up to rescue her just in time. Liam gets to come home, and they talk about their future of having Amber to go to Boston with Liam, even though she's only 16. But I guess now that the baby issue's out of the way, there's nothing stopping them. Okay, guys, final stretch, and guess what? We get a time skip to 5 years later. Wow. We're treated to multiple perspective switches in one chapter, of course. We'd already been told their father's name, like in the previous chapter, literally just a few pages ago. But for some reason, the author, or Liam, I guess, felt the need to introduce him again fully in case we'd forgotten. A lot had happened in the last 5 years. Stephen Walker, Jake and Amber's father, got arrested a year after we left Boston because apparently he'd been scamming money from his clients. It's like, do we have to tell the author that 5 years didn't actually go by and that we can clearly remember the name of their their dad that we just heard a few pages ago. Amber is graduating college today with a degree in dance choreography. And Liam's hockey career is going so well that he's famous and they have like paparazzi following them. Okay. Liam surprises Amber with a dance studio that he bought her because even though his career just started, he's already rich and famous. Then, of course, he proposes. He pulled a little remote from his pocket and pushed a couple buttons, making the music start up. I gasped as the song started. It was our song, Amazed by Boys to Men. He pulled me closer to his chest, wrapping his arms tightly around me. I looked up the song, and the comments are just flooded with Liam's Amber fans. I was shocked and dismayed that there was an actual fan base for this atrocity of a book. We finally get to the closing paragraph of this thrilling journey. Surely no one had ever been happier than me in this moment. I had the perfect family, a new dance studio, which had been my dream since I was little, and the man of my dreams had just asked me to be his wife. Life couldn't get any better than this. I honestly felt like the luckiest girl in the world. Wow.
1, 2, 3, 4. Who's that knocking at my door? 5, 6, 7, 8. Hurry up and don't be late.
Though I've already been giving my opinions and my 2 cents throughout the retelling of this story, just to tie it up nicely in a bow, I really despised this book. It was a horrible reading experience. I don't think I've ever hated the reading process of a book like I did with this one. The pacing made it unbearable. It legitimately was a chore to get through. The writing style was just disgusting. And I wanted to bleach my eyes after reading about this 16-year-old's ass or Liam's boners for 200 pages. The novelty just wore off very quickly. It just wasn't funny anymore and so difficult to get through. This is a Wattpad story through and through, and I do mean that in a I do mean that in a derogatory way. It shouldn't have left the website. It needed to be cut down and massively edited. Though I think at this point I'd prefer the whole thing to just be trashed. It just might be unsalvageable. So yeah, that's my thoughts on The Boy Who Sneaks in My Bedroom Window. It's been a long time since I've uploaded, so hi. If you've made it this far, thanks. And we're trauma bonded now. I always need more reading suggestions if you have any. After I read this, I legitimately had to like purge my mind with actually good literature, so I've been just kind of reading some actually pleasant books, or maybe not pleasant, but just like good, well written, thought provoking, perhaps. But I'm thinking of reviewing some books I actually liked next time around, um, just to cleanse my soul a little bit. But yeah, see you next time. Probably.